This is LeetCode 2639. Find the width of columns of a grid. It's a LeetCode easy. In this problem, we're given an integer matrix grid, and we're tasked to find the maximum width of the values of each column. So from here, we want to go through each value in the grid, see the width of each value, and if that width is the max value of that column, we want to append it to our array list or our array. So the width is defined as each value basically in here. So if you have -10, the negative counts as a character, so that counts as 1, the 1 counts as 1, and the 0 counts as 1, so that's a size 3 width value. Now this 3 has just one character, so it's a size 1, 12 is a size 2. So essentially we want to use brute force and iterate through every single value in the grid and append it to an integer array and return it. And the integer array is the max width of the maximum value in each column. So we're going to want to instantiate an array. This needs to be the length of all the columns. So we're going to do grid. Now we want to iterate through every single value in the grid. So we're going to do that with 2 for loops. Now from here, we want to have a value because we need to know how big this value we're at is. So I'm just going to say, I'm just going to get the value first because we're going to need to manipulate a little bit. So int val equals grid by j. And then I'm going to get a count. Now, to get the size of this, of each value, I want to first check if it's positive or negative, because if it's negative, then we need to add 1 to our count. So I'm going to say if val is less than 0, and we count plus plus, and I'm going to turn that val positive. Now, I also need to make sure that if the value is 0, that we add it to the count. So I'm just going to say val equals 0. I'll figure that out at the end. Val equals 0. Well, actually, I'll just say val equals 0. We're just going to want the we're going to say val is not equal 0. So here, this else is if value is 0. And if it's 0, it still needs to be 1. But I don't want to do any of this manipulation. So from here, we check that the value is positive or negative. If it's negative, we add 1 to our count. And now we just want to check basically how many characters are in the number. So a good way to do this is just to divide by 10 until the value equals 0. Because each time you divide by 10, if the value doesn't equal 0, then you still have another value. So if you have like 901, you divide that by 10, that gives you 90. Divide that by 10, that gives you 9. Divide that by 10, that gives you 0. So this would add 3 for 901. So we're going to want a while loop. While value is greater than 0, we're going to say value divide equals prefix notation. Value gets divided by 10 and the count goes up. So this should go until the value is 0, and from here we should have the correct count for the current value that we're at, and now we just need to add it to our array. But we first need to check that the current value for the column is greater than or less than the value for this value in that column. So we're going to say if the count is greater than the spot in the array, which will be at j, because that's the column we're at, because the I values go column, column, column. I's go row, row, row. Column is the j values. So we're going to say if the count is greater than that, we're going to say j At the end, we should be able to just return that and get the answer. Nice. Very efficient. Solved using Java.